The princesses. The most bizarre but the second most terrifying case in Shandong has arrived. First of all, just the opening music alone immediately sets the terrifying atmosphere to the fullest. Next, a plant suddenly grew in the wild vegetable field. A woman's decayed head, crawling with maggots. The entire body below the head was deeply buried in the soil. What's even more terrifying is, her hair was shaved into a half-shaved head. Half was hair and half was bald. What's even more bizarre is, not only was her hair entangled with chopsticks, his pants pocket was stuffed full of a clump of hair. Can you handle this? At that moment, I went whoosh, bounced up from the sofa. I said, is this for real? August 15, 1999. Chijia Zhuang Village, Huansui District, Weihai, Shandong. On that day, the 98-year-old villager, Old Deng, was hauling soil in someone else's wasteland. Suddenly, he dug up a woven bag. An old man was digging and digging there. A single creation resulted in a woven bag. Wondering what this thing is. So, what is inside the bag? Suddenly again, Old Deng opened the woven bag and encountered a shocking sight. Looking inside, how come there was hair? And even chopsticks were entangled in the hair. It's hard to say, but it looked like a human head. At this moment, Old Deng was so scared that his Nokia 3210 automatically called the police. Before long, the Weihai police arrived at the scene by rocket. The forensic expert confirmed that it was indeed a female skull. A strand of shiny black hair was exposed on the outside. The head had decayed severely, crawling with white wriggling fly larvae, almost turning into white bones. As the excavation and cleaning deepened, suddenly, a disfigured body with bound hands and feet appeared. The highly decomposed woman, curled up and covered in writhing maggots, was revealed. The body has been there for a long time. Half-dry house state. Then, who is this? Why did she appear here in this manner? Forensic examination confirmed. The individual was around 30 years old. Height is 1.63 meters, caused by a rope strangling the neck. Time of death was about 1 year ago. What's bizarre is, a chopstick was still twisted around the person's hair and the rope. What does this indicate? Did the murderer use the chopstick to bind the rope for convenience? Must place this person on the ground. Due to the body being highly decomposed, it lacked any identifiable value. Additionally, the time of the incident was quite long ago. The police were unable to extract fingerprints or other traces of the victim or the murderer. It was the 1990s, and DNA technology had not yet become widespread. Additionally, she remained silent and refused to provide identification. The case faced the problem of confirming the source right from the start. The police found in a red backpack beneath the body. A pair of black leather shorts was discovered, and a sexy camisole top. Judging based on the person's attire, the person was likely a fashionable woman in her life. And in that era, such fashion trendsetters. If not a rich heiress, then an engineer in the entertainment industry. Suddenly, the police found a strand of hair in the suspect's pocket. After comparison, it was confirmed to belong to the suspect. At this point, everyone noticed that the person's hair had been shaved into a yin-yang style. The immediate impression it gives to people. First, the victim must be put to death. Second, before killing her, it could be said that there was a process. The process of torture, cutting the hair, gradually strangling her. So the question arises, who is the murderer? Why would he be so ruthless and insane to torture and murder the victim? The process of tormenting involved cutting her hair. Immediately, the police began checking the missing person's records. On the other hand, conducting investigations and interviews with the surrounding villagers. First, he had to ensure the victim was completely dead. After a great effort, not only is there no matching person in Weihai's local missing persons database, external investigations and visits also yielded nothing. The case seemed to have fallen into a catastrophic beginning. At this moment, suddenly, the attentive police at the scene found in the backpack a billing receipt from a certain entertainment venue in Weihai. There is handwriting saying October 15th, tip 400. There was also a blurry name. One could only vaguely make out the character Li. In light of this, the police deduced that the victim was likely a prostitute. The police subsequently found this entertainment venue. However, the owner stated that the prostitutes are very transient. He did not recall anyone the police were looking for. Suddenly, other engineers, however, provided an important clue. There had been a young prostitute. who abruptly disappeared in October of last year. Her name was Yang Li. Her height and age matched the victim's characteristics closely. The time of her disappearance also coincided closely with the victim's time of death. Could Yang Li be the victim? The prostitutes instantly recognized that Yang Li also had the same red backpack as the victim. However, regarding Yang Li's true identity, everyone was unclear. It is important to know that engineers navigate the world for self-preservation. They generally use pseudonyms or stage names. So how do we find Yang Li for verification? Suddenly, the engineers provided Yang Li's pager number. The registration information inquiry showed that the owner of the pager is a woman named Xiao Sun. She was 30 years old and from Russian, Weihai City. The police showed the household registration photo to the engineers for identification. They confirmed that Yang Li was indeed Xiao Sun. In September 1999, 1 month after the incident, the police arrived at Xiao Sun's home. Xiao Sun's family stated that, although Xiao Sun had not returned since last year's Mid-Autumn Festival, they still believed that Xiao Sun was doing well, because just 6 months before the police arrived, Xiao Sun had entrusted a man and a woman to come to her house to handle some matters. They asked for the household registration book and ID card. They wanted my mom's, just those two. They said something about my sister's rural turban status. My mom gave them everything. Could it be that the police really made a mistake? If this person is Xiao Sun, then why did she send a friend to the door 6 months after her death? If it's not Xiao Sun, then who is it? To quickly verify the identity of the individual, the police had no choice but to retrieve Xiao Sun's household registration photo. Along with the individual's skull photo, it was sent to Beijing. They hoped that the skull photo superimposition technique would bring a breakthrough. This is a method of overlaying the individual's skull photo with the missing person's photo to identify their identity. Before DNA technology became widely available, cranial image superimposition technology is regarded as one of the most important forensic science methods. A month later, Beijing issued the identification results. Unsurprisingly, this individual is Xiao Sun. According to the Sun's recollection, the last time my sister came home was on the Mid-Autumn Festival in 1988. 6 months later, a man and a woman claiming to be Xiao Sun's friends came to the house asking for the household registration book. At that time, I didn't think about calling the police. At that time, I never thought that such a thing could happen. What was there to report to the police? The police judged that this man and woman were major suspects in the case. In addition, after investigation, this man and woman obtained a household registration certificate. However, they did not take care of Xiao Sun's rural turban transfer. So what were these two really trying to do? At that time, it was also analyzed. The purpose of obtaining the household registration certificate was likely for the purpose of withdrawing money from the bank. Suddenly, the son remembered his mother. There was a fixed deposit receipt that had been kept by his sister. Sure enough, on October 27, 1998, someone had withdrawn a savings account from the bank in Xiao Sun's name. 29 million in cash was withdrawn. The signature was in Xiao Sun's alias, Yang Li. Then, on December 9, 1998, the person my matey withdrew 100 million from a fixed deposit receipt belonging to Xiao Sun's mother. The person who withdrew it was someone named Yulime. Who is she? Could she be the woman who visited the Sun family? The household registration information shows Yulime is from Wendeng, Weihai City. She lives in Deshupo town. The family of Sun confirmed after identification. Yulime is indeed the one who went to their house to obtain the household registration certificate. The woman among this man and woman. In March 2000, the police arrested Yulime at her household registration address. She quickly confessed to the crime. However, she stated that all of this was proposed and instigated by her boyfriend Zhao Gengyo. Zhao Gengyo, 36 years old at the time. He is from Tianjin district, Jiamusi, Heilongjiang. The two cut off contact after suggesting to hide separately a few days ago. The police learned from Yulime. Zhao Gengyo is 1.72 meters tall, with double eyelids and a high nose bridge. His left hand's middle finger is severed at the second joint. At the same time, the police obtained a household registration photo of Zhao Gengyo. The police analyzed that there are 3 possible whereabouts for Zhao Gengyo. One is hiding in Weihai. The second is fleeing back to his hometown of Jiamusi. But the third option is the most concerning. Because Weihai is close to the provinces of South Korea and Japan. There have been many instances of criminals using fishing boats to smuggle into those provinces. If Zhao Gengyo smuggled himself by boat, then finding him would be like searching for a needle in a haystack. According to statistics, there were dozens of fishing docks of various sizes in Weihai at that time. There were over 10,000 registered fishing boats. The police could only adopt a method of boarding each boat for thorough checks. They had to identify all crew members one by one. Meanwhile, Yu Limei also revealed the motive for the crime. It turned out that all of this was because of Park Guoren. A few years ago, Yu Limei had just arrived in Weihai and worked as a waitress. Later, she met the engineer, Xiao Sun, by chance. I didn't expect that from then on, I would have a grudge with Xiao Sun. Sun said that such a beautiful girl. What a shame to be here. She said she'd find you someone new. To be someone's mistress. Several $1,000s a month. That's still better than being here. Why did you agree to do this? Because she said in a month. She could give you several $1,000s. When you were working as a waitress there. How much were you making a month? $300. Just like that, under the temptation of money. Yu Limei quickly moved in with the foreigner, Park Guoren, introduced by Xiao Sun. But after over 20 days of hundreds of conflicts lasting 20 seconds each, Yu Limei was both pained and happy, but she received not a single cent. After she introduced you to Park Fulang. You didn't get that money, right? Who did you give the money to? I don't know. After leaving Park Guoren, Yu Limei got a job at a bookstore. Soon after, she started a relationship with Zhao Gengyo from the northeast. But who would have thought that soon her past would still be discovered by Zhao Gengyo? Because in 1998, Zhao Gengyo contracted a painful STD. Later, under Zhao Gengyo's questioning, Yu Limei confessed everything. At that time, Yu Limei explained to him that she was introduced by Sun, was once supported by someone else and contracted a sexually transmitted disease. At that time, Zhao Gengyo said to me, implying that I was very foolish. Then he said I should ask Sun for compensation again. He just wanted to extort money from Sun. On the afternoon of October 27, 1998, Yu Limei arranged to meet Xiao Sun at the rental apartment. Zhao Gengyo had a dispute with Xiao Sun while negotiating compensation. So Zhao Gengyo tied Xiao Sun up. Subsequently, to make Xiao Sun suffer from the pain, Zhao Gengyo repeatedly raped Xiao Sun in front of Yu Limei. Yet even so, Xiao Sun still refused to reveal the passwords to the 2 deposit slips. At first, Sun was uncooperative. They started cutting her hair while pressuring her. They pressed her to divulge the password. In the end, Xiao Sun reluctantly revealed the password. Then Zhao Gengyo asked Yu Limei to go to the bank to withdraw money. Because the fixed deposit was in Xiao Sun's mother's name and had not matured, Yu Limei had no choice but to use Xiao Sun's alias, Yang Li. She withdrew 29 million yuan from the current deposit account. After that, Zhao Gengyo chose to kill her to silence her. Later, Zhao Gengyo said he just choked her. It was at that moment he had chopsticks in his hand. I handed them to him. He choked her until her face turned purple. Then she just stretched her leg and died. Then the two buried the body in the vegetable field. Later, in order to access the money from the fixed deposit, they went to Xiao Sun's house to deceive her out of the household registration book. Yu Limei's confession matched the police investigation. As long as Zhao Gengyo remains at large, the case cannot be closed. At this time, the police dispatched to Jiamusi discovered that Zhao Gengyo's parents had died and he had 6 siblings. However, Zhao Gengyo seemed to have evaporated from the world, with no news at all. The police analyzed that Zhao Gengyo probably had not yet returned to Jiamusi. So where could he be hiding? Suddenly, the police in charge of inspecting fishing boats received a lead. The captain of one boat reported that he had hired a man who matched our inspection target, with a similar northeast accent. However, he didn't work there for long. He then went to another dock. More crucially, had a disability in his left hand. The police were pumped up, thinking this was a solid lead. Absolutely. There's a high chance it's him. After obtaining this clue, we were very happy. It felt very likely that the suspect we had investigated. After numerous difficulties, the man was found. But unfortunately, he turned out to be a good person, not Zhao Gengyo. The disability in his hand was merely due to a work injury. On October 18, 2000, the court sentenced Yu Limei to life imprisonment for robbery. At this point, capturing Zhao Gengyo became the top priority. But regarding Zhao Gengyo's whereabouts, the police were also in the dark. Because in the 1990s, when criminal investigation technology was lagging, it was truly like finding a needle in a haystack to locate Zhao Gengyo using just a household registration photo. The difficulty was really like searching for a needle in the ocean. You might as well take a bold guess where Zhao Gengyo is currently hiding. A warm reminder, he is in the safest place right beside you. In the blink of an eye, it was 2011. At this time, it had already been 12 years since the incident. The police searched every nook and cranny. After several rotations of police officers, Zhao Gengyo still had not been apprehended. That year, the Ministry of Public Security placed Zhao Gengyo on the online wanted list. Every year during the Spring Festival, the police would secretly stake out the homes of Zhao Gengyo's relatives in Jiamuxi, while everyone else was joyfully having reunion dinners and watching the Spring Festival gala. The officers could only huddle inside their cars to keep warm. They didn't even dare to call home, because any noise or light could expose them. In addition to the stakeouts, the investigators also traveled around various districts of Jiamuxi searching for Zhao Gengyo. What troubled the investigators was, the temperature in Jiamuxi was lower than that in the Jiaodong region. Even the breath in their nostrils was filled with ice shavings. How could you stand this? The police analyzed that after more than 10 years had passed, Zhao Gengyo's appearance had definitely changed. We can no longer rely on that household registration photo. Was there a possibility that Zhao Gengyo existed before? Is there a criminal record? Has this fingerprint file been left behind? A person's fingerprints cannot be changed. Sure enough, after a lot of searching efforts, in the spring of 2012, Zhao Gengyo's former neighbor stated, back in 1983, this guy served time in Jiamuxi prison for theft and fraud. The investigators immediately went to Jiamuxi prison. They searched countless times but couldn't find Zhao Gengyo's file. But it is certain that this guy had studied here. We were puzzled as to why we couldn't find it. Why couldn't we find it? Suddenly, after careful inspection, the investigators discovered a file of a released prisoner that matched Zhao Gengyo's household registration information exactly. However, this person is not named Zhao Gengyo but Zhao Jinyu. What exactly is going on here? So it turns out, back then, due to a clerical error during registration, Zhao Gengyo was written as Zhao Jinyu. What's exciting is that this release notice has a fingerprint of Zhao Gengyo's right hand. We've got this time for sure. Zhao Gengyo won't be able to escape. All of us in the special investigation team were very excited. We felt that we would catch him. We should have a better grasp of the situation now. But soon, the mood of the task force turned cold again. Zhao Gengyo's fingerprint is an oil print. After 30 years of preservation, some key comparison points have become unclear. Although the fingerprint experts have done some restoration, among several billion fingerprints, there are over 40,000 highly similar fingerprints. Narrowing it down to 40,000 highly similar fingerprints, everyone regarding this fingerprint comparison may have a misunderstanding. That is to say, when we get a fingerprint from the scene, and then enter it into the database, after comparing it through the computer system, a suspect has emerged, and this fingerprint belongs to him. That's not the case. In fact, after comparing 40,000 highly suspicious fingerprints, it was still necessary to manually compare these fingerprints one by one with Zhao Gengyo's. After 5 days and nights without sleep, the experts, after comparing 480,000 fingerprint characteristics, suddenly, a fingerprint collected in 2002 was successfully matched. They said it matched. At that moment, I went whoosh. I jumped up from the sofa. I said, "Is this for real?" He said it's real, in Yantai. I got in my car right away. Pulling the old cow, we rushed to Yantai. However, this person is neither named Zhao Gengyo nor Zhao Jinyu. Instead, he is an ex-con named Su Jianwei. So what's going on here? Could it be that the special investigation team is losing hope again? Suddenly, there's light at the end of the tunnel. After we accessed this photo information, and compared it with Zhao Gengyo's registered photo, it was him. Although he is a bit older, but it's definitely not wrong, it was him who built it. This is also our 10+ years. The first time I saw him outside of his black and white photos. The second photo. In addition to that, the police also had multiple clear fingerprints of Zhao Gengyo. Comparisons revealed that, in 2009, Zhao Gengyo had left fingerprints after falsely reporting a crime during a dispute with his new girlfriend in Jinan, Shandong. Left his fingerprints when he filed a false police report after arguing with his new girlfriend. At that time, his temporary residence was in a rental in Wangguanzhuang, Jinan. It was now the summer of 2012. 3 years had passed since the false report. Would Zhao Gengyo still be there? The police decided to disguise themselves and conduct undercover investigations. At that time, I was wearing sunglasses. I had on baggy shorts. I went around with old Nyo to investigate. When we checked a shared rental courtyard, suddenly, a surprise appeared. I felt a jolt of excitement at that moment. "Oh, this could be promising," I said. The old cow. "Inside." Old Nyo said at the time, "Really? Did I see it wrong?" I said, "Old Nyo, trust your brother." It turns out that in the first room, there was a man who looked exactly like Zhao Gengyo watching TV, and his left hand was missing the middle and index fingers. At that moment, I asked. I said, "Comrade, you don't have any rental rooms here?" He impatiently replied, "No." Hearing the suspicious man's northeast accent, the officer's instincts were awakened again. "Steady now, this wave is finally stable. Let's see if you can still be arrogant." However, the man confidently insisted he was Su Jianwei. "Why are you arresting me? Be careful, I'll sue you for damages." Luckily, after effective interrogation techniques and fingerprint comparison, the man was confirmed to be Zhao Gengyo. "I tell you, this is our director from Weihai. We are from the Weihai Public Security Bureau. You should know why we brought you here. You know, right? Why did you leave Weihai back then? You should know in your heart the reason for leaving. It's been tough for you all these years, hasn't it? I know I've committed a murder. I knew this day would come eventually, but I haven't broken the law in these 10 years. What? You haven't violated the law. You were sentenced twice in Yantai and once in re-education through labor. We all know this. We've looked into this very thoroughly." "Ah, Zhao Gengyo. How do you know this so well?" Subsequently, Zhao Gengyo confessed to his criminal actions back then. However, he claims all of this is Yu Limei's fault. Who doesn't want to work honestly? Don't you want to work well after coming out? But my downfall was my partner. I didn't know she used to be a prostitute. At this point, Yu Limei had no feelings left for Zhao Gengyo. She just wanted to return to society and honor her family as soon as possible. What's shocking is that, over the years, Zhao Gengyo has been studying law diligently on his own, thinking that one day he could pass a sentence. "You still buy legal books, you said so." Well, I think, because he committed such a serious crime, we need to understand our fate clearly. How long can I live after killing someone? I need to find out. What outcome do you expect for yourself? Expected result, death. At this point, the truth of the case was revealed. Ultimately, in July 2013, the court sentenced Zhao Gengyo to a 2-year probationary period. Good night, my dear princesses.